Hello everyone, I welcome you to another learning workshop. This one is titled Setting Boundaries at Work. Now friends, in our previous series you may have seen we spoke and learnt about burnout, the characteristics of it, the causes, and one of the core reasons we need boundaries is the the very symptoms of burnout, explaining us how lack of boundaries at work can eventually and directly lead to it. So in our workshop today, by the end of this session, you will learn a very simple three-step method through which you can establish and set boundaries at work, helping you live and practically exercise such boundaries which can not only prevent the burnout at office, at your workspace, but also promote your mental and physical health. Let's get started. Before we begin, let's spend a minute to understand what exactly are boundaries. You can spend few seconds here on this slide or the screen before you where it speaks about the limits and guidelines we set for ourselves and others to protect our time, energy, values, and emotional well being. They help boundaries, help us define what is okay and not okay in how we work, communicate, and interact. When we lack boundaries or when boundaries are unclear, ignored, or are weak, especially at work, this is one of the main reasons which can lead us to burnout. So let's learn a very simple yet a very powerful way of establishing boundaries at work. Before we get to learn that simple step, let's also spend a minute to give this statement or this question a thought. What are boundaries at work? Friends, you may have noticed or experienced we navigate work relationships with people we prefer, but in this work relations, we also have people who are difficult to deal with. So it's not all the time we get to choose people. Much like our family relationships, our work relationships are not chosen. They are circumstantial. And much of our adult life we spend at work. So boundaries at work can play a pivotal role in helping us getting into that burnout phase. So let's learn this method. Let's identify certain areas and put this in practice so that we prevent burning out at work. Let's look at this workplace boundaries. It's a three-step method. I have actually divided the concept into three steps, making it simple to follow and practically anyone can do it. So at workplace, when our boundaries are kind of trespassed, these are typically situations where our personal or professional limits are disrespected or crossed by others. This can make us feel uncomfortable, upset, and overwhelmed. And we get into difficult experience towards certain colleagues. We also end up feeling burnt out, fatigued, and emotionally drained. Now, how do we really counter this? The very first thing we need to first understand here is that we have to identify this work elements which can then help us establish our boundaries. Because if I ask you, where are your boundaries being disrespected or crossed over, you may not immediately be able to share with me. You can narrate to me the whole incident where you feel disrespected and you're emotionally drained, but it's like a vague idea in your mind, overlapping with many experiences. And to make things easy for you, to help you get that clarity so that you make that right decision and at the same time establish boundaries in the right place, this particular exercise will help us. So you can pause the video here, grab a pen and a paper so that you, if you want to make down or take down some notes, do so and take a good note of the various elements we need to consider before we establish boundaries. So the first step is we identify what is it in that workplace where we need to establish a boundary. So all in all, these are the 5 categories which we can easily relate to: team dynamics, workload management, remote work challenges, professional development, and work-life balance. Now, friends, to the book you have, if you write in one column all these 5 categories, this helps you put your problem wherever your boundaries are uh, crossed or you were disrespected. When you put your problem there, either you match your problem to which area it's falling under. Is it the work-life balance? Is it the workload management? Is it the team dynamics? And this very identification can help you first identify where is it that your boundaries are not being met. It might look like this. So you have the work area in one column, and here are some examples that I'm sharing with you. So for example, if you have your boundaries being crossed, the examples of work-life balance under this area is after hours communication or unclear expectations. Meaning the things at workspace that is keeping you awake at night, that's emotionally draining you. If you could take that experience, write it down in detail, then come back to this table and try to match it with which work area. Is it the work-life balance? Is it the professional development? Which the examples of this is lack of feedback, unclear career path, workload management. This is about unrealistic deadlines, scope creep, team dynamics, micromanagement, lack of autonomy, gossiping, remote work challenges, a blurred line between home and office. So whichever area you are having an issue that's emotionally draining you, where you feel you are burning yourself out, first write it down in detail, then match it with any of these work area. You can take the examples from here, and then once you're done with this, you have to create a third column where you establish your boundaries. So let's say this table is actually a complete work where you have the work area here, you have examples, and here you are establishing boundaries. So if I were you and I have experiences, or let's say, even though I have filled in all the 5 of it, maybe let's say I have something to do with team dynamics. So here is about gossiping. I'm getting emotionally drained because I feel isolated. People are gossiping about me. My team is kind of a gossip mongers, and I'm not really getting along well with my team members. So how will I establish my boundary? Because this is a problem which I am facing, and I really need to now. Now I understood my problem. So I wrote it down, then I matched it with the work area, which is the team dynamics, taking this example that it is falling under this area. Once I've done this, now I have to sit through and establish my boundaries. But before that, I need to also understand that to what extent do I control the team dynamics? If I'm really bothered about the gossiping of my team members who have isolated me, I feel non-inclusive. I have to seek intervention of authorities in this, which can include an HR department where I need to escalate, or to my supervisor if this is really taking a toll on my emotional health. So likewise, you can do this in any area you feel burnt out. What is it that you're going to do? So understand the control you have and how will you establish the boundaries. With this, you complete this table. You identify which work area is really getting impacted. Is it the workload? Is it the professional development? Is it the work-life balance? Accordingly, seek your solutions. These examples can be many, can be less, but this is the core area. And then accordingly, when you establish your boundaries, put them into practice so that you regain your power back. Now, one very important and critical element of boundary settings is you will face a lot of resistance. It's not very easy when we establish boundaries to be so easily be accepted. And this is where the tricky part comes in. You have to learn to handle resistance, wherein the core area through which you could do this is your communication skills, whether it's written or spoken. And I have just given 3 simple ways where if you are met with resistance, you can politely restate your boundary, where you acknowledge the person, but at the same time, using an assertive communication tone, you can say a no. You can stay firm but respectful, this is where you take an intentional pause. So let's say one of the ways you handle the resistance is you may not really have an answer. So you say, I will come back to you. Maybe I don't have an answer now. So you don't say a yes or a no, and you let your boundary be there, but then you think and you come back. But while you're saying all this, you are firm, but you're also respectful. So you make sure your tone is polite and assertive. You can offer alternatives when you find people are resisting the boundaries, meaning your client or your boss has some unrealistic targets. So when you offer alternatives, it is a way where you offer data backed up by some real facts and say, if not this, this is the way we can do it. This is another way of handling the resistance that might come your way. Friends, this particular topic is not as simple as it is sounding now, and it doesn't really close with these 3 points. Here's where the role of a coach comes in, because each one of us may have our own unique situations at office, and therefore the way we handle resistance may vary with each one of us. What you're seeing on your screen is just a very generic, simple way where you are taking that intentional pause, where you're being assertive, where you're being respectful, you're firm, you offer alternatives. These are some very, very basic things to begin with. But sometimes, depending on the situation we are in, we need an external support of a coach who can help us really establish those boundaries. And here's where my role as a coach comes in. And as an expert in this, I can support you. Case to cases, the results and situations vary, with tools and techniques that you can apply and establish your boundaries, save yourself from burnout, and make sure you are within the boundaries that you've established for yourself, be at your best performance, and at the same time, your boundaries are not disrespected or crossed. Finally, burnt out is just not about having too much to do. That's a very, I should say, doesn't really cover everything of burnt out. It's a very simple definition or explanation of it. It's often about not having enough boundaries to protect your well-being while doing it. So establishing boundaries is a work in itself. and you feel you are going through a chronic burnout because you don't really know how to do so, how to establish those boundaries, I urge you to reach out. I am sharing my first consultation, no cost, link to the call that we can have for an hour, and you can share your issue so that I can help you with methods and also coach you to establish those boundaries, heal your burnout, and you be a performer both in your professional and personal life. Thank you.